the final cutscene, like after you beat the last boss, there's just a little like it's like a battle, but it's like a one-on-one little cutscene. You basically win automatically, but it's basically the main character using the ultimate weapon to deal the final blow to Sephiroth, the one-winged angel. And that is the image that led me to naming my finish the ultimate weapon.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3, back once again with an exclusive interview for the Takedown on SI with the one and only newest signee for All Elite Wrestling, one of the best wrestlers in the world today, Speedball Mike Bailey. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I am still on cloud nine. I'm still overwhelmed. Oh man, it's been a wild ride.
Indeed, you've been on one of the craziest rides in like pro wrestling over the last couple of years. Been all over the independent scene, and this past Wednesday, the March 12th edition of AEW Dynamite, you made your official AEW debut. We're doing this interview just a few days after that. So, how is it up on Cloud 9 following your debut on Dynamite this week?
I mean, I just got home, right? I got home yesterday after a very long day of travel, and I am now just starting to catch up on everything. My phone has been buzzing nonstop since the match happened with people saying congratulations, and I'm doing my best to respond to every single message and every single tweet, and I can't. There's been too many. It's been impossible to say thank you to everyone, but I want to. And I mean, I think right now is the perfect chance to do it, right? We talk about a wild ride, but it's been 20 years of a professional wrestling career that's led me up to this moment, up to this debut on AEW Dynamite, finally making it here. And I mean, I want to say thank you to every single person that has watched a Speedball Mike Bailey match over the last 20 years, that's been on my side, on my team, that's been supporting. Honestly, there's a lot being made about how negative the internet is, right? And there's been you see all the negative comments, but they're all drowned out and erased by the overwhelming amount of positivity and love and support that myself and AEW have received over the last, 48 hours almost. 36.
Yeah.
36
36 or so. Yeah. But I'm just so happy for you. Like I told you before we started doing this interview, I've interviewed you. This is our third time chatting with one another. I think the first time I talked to you was back in February of 2023, where I told you you were my favorite wrestler in the world. And you had such the most genuine, humble kind of response to that I've just fallen in love with you as a wrestler and as a person even more over the years, and followed your journey from TNA throughout the independents. I was even waking up at like 3 a.m. in the morning for you in the Best of Super Juniors a couple of years ago. So I followed along with this journey, but kind of to give the Sports Illustrated kind of readers and listeners kind of your journey, how you kind of were kind of on the outside looking in with the independent scene, not having your visa, and then had to come back and really just took over the independent scene. Kind of walk us through that journey, because you, like you said, you've been on a 20-year career, but you had that little pause where not a lot of people were knowing what you were doing because it was outside of the United States, and you had to come back in and really make your stamp for yourself. So kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, man, I don't think we have time to go through the entire journey, but I would love to. I mean, I started wrestling in Quebec, in the French part of Canada, in 2005. And if people don't know what wrestling was like in 2005, this is pre-Facebook. So if you wanted to advertise your independent professional wrestling show, like, you had to staple a flyer to a telephone pole, and that was the most accessible means of advertising. So I wrestled for like almost 10 years in Canada, making little to no money until I eventually made it to the United States and started working on some of the major independent promotions there. One of which being PWG, which I think PWG is ultimately and now like very intimately tied in to All Elite Wrestling, right? I was wrestling in 2016 on those on 2015 Bola, where I wrestled, and I remember if you look at the card now, well, half of them, more than half the card is with AEW now, and they've been absolutely killing it for several years. So, I mean, my hope back then was that I was just going to follow along with the pack and have the same kind of trajectory, but that didn't happen for me. I was removed from the U.S. Uh, because I couldn't wrestle without a work visa for 5 years. So during those 5 years, I was looking ahead at where I wanted to be. Eventually, I started wrestling for DDT, which is the same promotion in Japan that Kenny Omega came up with, trying to follow in his footsteps. And I mean, that's been the journey. That's been the goal for me. That's where I've been looking at. In 2015, I was in PWG with all the best wrestlers in the world. And then it took me another 10 years to finally make it and officially be All Elite, officially be back where the best wrestle with those very same people.
Yes, it's been quite a wild ride for you. And you mentioned one of the people that a lot of people are anticipating you clashing with, and you might be able to clash it with just one more win on next week's Dynamite after you picked up your victory in your debut against the Beast Mortos in the Dynasty International Championship Eliminator Tournament. You are now going to be in a four-way matchup, and if you win there, you will move on to face Kenny Omega on April 6th at AEW Dynasty for the International Championship. And it's been nearly 10 years since your only one-on-one matchup with Kenny Omega in PWG back in December of 2015. So how much does that matchup and potentially picking up that win on Dynamite mean to you to go back and face someone, like you said, that you were trying to follow in the footsteps in 10 years ago?
Well, there's a lot ahead of that. Even then, next week on Dynamite, I mean, I got to face off at the end of Dynamite this Wednesday with Orange Cassidy after he defeated Hechicero, and now I'm gonna get to go in the ring with Orange Cassidy, which is one of the few in AEW that I have never wrestled, and I so desperately want to get to mix up with him, and then two others that are to be determined. But yeah, I mean, I've been literally chasing Kenny Omega for 10 years. When I started in PWG, I used just a shooting star press as my finishing move, but then there was also Ricochet there, also Matt Sydal and Andrew Everett there, who were all using a shooting star press. So I was like, I got to make mine unique. I got to find something different. So I added the knees, right? And I didn't have a name for it. It was just shooting star knee drop until I got to DDT. And that's when I decided to name it the Ultimate Weapon. SB3, are you a video game guy?
Yes, I am.
Are you a Final Fantasy guy?
I have played Final Fantasy, yes.
Have you played Final Fantasy 7?
Oh, I don't. It's been years probably since I've been able to play any of the Final Fantasy games, but I have played it once or twice. Yes, yes.
Gotcha. Well, you should play it back. Final Fantasy 7, one of my favorite games. I play it so often. But Sephiroth, who is the main bad guy, right? And the Ultimate Weapon is a sword that Cloud, the main character, use it. And the final cutscene, like after you beat the last boss, there's just a little like it's like a battle, but it's like a one-on-one little cutscene. You basically win automatically, but it's basically the main character using the Ultimate Weapon to deal the final blow to Sephiroth, the one-winged angel. And that is the image that led me to naming my finish the Ultimate Weapon. So I'm hoping to be able to finish that 10-year chase of Kenny Omega and make that image a reality at Destiny of all of all events. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. I mean, I think that's the rematch I've been wanting for a long time, and it doesn't get any better than that. Dynasty.
Yes, Dynasty. Oh man,
My bad.
I love that story. I never knew the story behind Ultimate Weapon, and that makes all the sense in the world. Because I was gonna ask you, you did not use Ultimate Weapon to get your finish on Beast Mortals in your debut. You kind of debuted a new finisher, kind of a variation of your tornado kick that sets up the Ultimate Weapon, but this time you hit a roundhouse kick. Do you have a name for that move that you hit on Wednesday in your debut?
I do. I've thought about it a lot. I've been practicing that move. I felt I needed something quicker, something more direct, something that requires a less specific setup than the Ultimate Weapon. And during the whole time that I was off, I was in Canada getting my visa renewed between December and March, and I spent a lot of time there, several hours every week at the IWS dojo, which is a wrestling school in Montreal, training and teaching there. And I have been working on that kick extremely hard every chance I get for the last 3 months. And I call it, name reveal right here, Time Adventure.
Time Adventure. All
Time
right.
Adventure,
So
which is a reference to the final episode of what is, in my opinion, one of the greatest TV shows of all time, Adventure Time.
I love that. I love that. That's too awesome. So Time Adventure, we got the scoop here. Time Adventure is your new one of your finishing moves. So you got Orange Cassidy in this four-way coming up on March 19th Dynamite. You got four guys that will be competing on Collision this coming Saturday with Katsuyori Shibata versus Ricochet, Mark Briscoe versus Mark Davis, the Battle of the Marks there. So kind of who are you kind of looking at, and kind of give us kind of your perspective of the four people that you could potentially be facing in this four-way coming up.
I am happy no matter who it is. I can't say who I hope. I feel like I have a connection to all four of those people, some more than others. I've never been in the ring with Shibata, but of course, he is an absolute living legend. It's incredible what he's accomplished already, and the fact that he's now going in AEW is quite frankly unbelievable. So the fact that I might share the ring with him is absolutely motivating. But Ricochet, I think, is one of the best performers, one of the most influential high flyers in history. Speaking of people that I came up with in PWG, right? During that whole era, somehow Ricochet and I completely missed each other. We were never even in the same ring, not even in like a multi-man match. I completely missed him, and I think he is what he's doing in AEW, even though I don't condone his actions. I think he is performing on an absolutely incredible level. Mark Briscoe, another living legend that I've never shared the ring with, but of course, like he commands respect, right? He is a veteran, he is an icon, and I think he's doing some of his best work in AEW right now. His main events with Kyle Fletcher have been some of my favorite matches that I've watched. Mark Davis, who is someone that I first met in when I spent months at a time in the UK in like 2014, 15 and on. So I've known him for a very, very long time. We've been in the ring together, but never in a singles match. So all those options sound amazing to me. I'm ready for anything again. What I want is to go out there and create moments, put on some memorable matches, and I feel like no matter who ends up in there with me and Orange Cassidy next Wednesday on Dynamite, we're gonna do just that.
And that's what a lot of people are expecting, some memorable matches from you based on everything that you've done over the last couple of years, like we said, across the independent scene and your great time in TNA wrestling. Like kind of being in a promotion that's on TV like TNA wrestling, kind of what did you learn from your 3.5 years in TNA that you plan to use here in AEW?
Navigating televised professional wrestling, weekly episodic professional wrestling is a different beast, right? Most of my career I've spent as an independent wrestler, and when you're an independent wrestler, you kind of have to treat every match as if happening in a complete vacuum, right? Even the promotions where I would wrestle for, the independent promotions that would run, several times a month, because of the nature of the beast, there's still a huge segment of the audience that didn't know who I am. Because that's how it goes. You have a show in a nightclub, you advertise it. I mean, you can't advertise only to professional wrestling fans. You have to try to get people in the building that aren't familiar with the show you're putting on and turn them into fans. So I kind of always had to, for most of my career, and this is for like, including the last 3 years, even though I was on TNA in independent wrestling, I still had to show who Speedball Mike Bailey is entirely, explain what I do, what my finishers are. In TNA, I started learning to kind of build on that and build a story that ties in from one match to the next. But I feel like in AEW, there's an even more, like, people pay that much more attention. You get to tell some really in-depth stories. I look forward to showing the audience in AEW how Speedball Mike Bailey is going to grow and evolve and change and adapt from match to match, knowing that people consume the product in a way where they're going to capture all of those little details and understand them. And then over the course of 10, 20 matches, there's going to be a payoff and a resolution that will reward people for paying attention. And that's why it's so exciting to be in AEW, because I know there's a fantastic production team that's going to help me tell all of those stories and make them come to life.
Yes, I'm looking forward to all the great stories, all the great matches you're going to be able to kind of go through. And like you said, most of your career, your 20-year career has been as an independent wrestler. Now with signing with AEW, I know your focus is going to be on All Elite Wrestling, but do you plan to still have a presence on the independent scene? Because I know there's so many fans that want to know that question, because you were Mr. Independent Wrestling over the last 3 to 4 years now.
My natural instinct still is to want to wrestle every single day of the week for every promotion that I can. However, I know that my focus right now needs to be on AEW. I have so much to accomplish there. I'm literally just getting started. I'm at the bottom right now, and I absolutely need to work my way to the top. I need to get that international championship at AEW Dynasty, and that needs to be the entirety of my focus for now. I'm not saying I won't appear other places in the future, but for now, yeah, I'm All Elite. My focus is AEW, and that's going to require my full attention.
And you said your sights are on Dynasty, but just to reflect back, we're coming off the heels of one of AEW's best shows ever, AEW Revolution. And like you said, Omega Takeshita, that was one of the best matches on the show for the International Championship. As someone who, right before your debut, you get that type of show, kind of what was your reaction and what's your kind of thoughts that you can reflect on from watching Revolution?
So I'm watching this, right? And this is the closest that I had been to debuting and starting with AEW. This was my first time being back in the US as an official AEW signed wrestler, watching a pay-per-view and really thinking pro wrestling does not get any better than this anywhere in the world. This is, again, a hot take, but I think pro wrestling in 2025 is the best it's ever been. And AEW Revolution, for me, was one of the best events of all time. I have watched Kenny Omega versus Takeshita, specifically, again, because Kenny Omega is who I've been chasing. One of the best pro wrestlers in the world, if not the best, someone I pay close attention to and have been paying super close attention to for 10 years. And Takeshita, someone who in 2016, when I had just started wrestling in DDT and saw him for the first time, I remember, and I was in Germany, they did a press conference before 16 Carat, and I said, Konosuke Takeshita is one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. Y'all just don't know it yet. And man, how correct was I?
Very.
And right? And since then, he and I have had 6 singles matches, I think, across in Japan and America, including the PWG Bola finals that I won in 2023. So I saw that match, and it was absolutely one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. And I have watched that match probably 10 times since then. Every time I do cardio, I'm on the gym at the Stairmaster, I pull up Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita, and I watch it because I want to absorb everything from that match.
Oh, I love it. Love the dedication that you have. One final question for you, because I got so excited when I first saw the vignette, the video package, kind of teasing your arrival in AEW on Collision. And one of the best notes of it, one of the best parts of it, was we got to hear the voice of your missus, your wife, Veda Scott, talking about you. And that was one of my favorite parts of watching you on the independent scene, especially in places like Game Changer Wrestling, how she was on commentary, commentating your matches. How much did that mean to you to hear Veda's voice in that video package announcing your arrival in AEW?
It was incredible. Honestly, I hadn't seen the package before it aired, so that was a surprise to me to hear Veda prominently featured, her voice all over that package. And I mean, Veda did some work with AEW. Relatively early on, she got to do some commentary, and she had such a great time there. She got to sit on an episode of Dynamite and do one match with Jim Ross and Excalibur and Tony. And after that, Veda was like, "This is where I want to work. AW is where I want to be, where I want to get a job." And I mean, she has worked harder than anyone I know to eventually reach her goal. But the fact that Veda was like, "This is where I want to work," of course, that had me set my sights on AEW as well. When is this going to air exactly?
This weekend.
Okay, perfect. Well, then you will have heard it, but Veda is in Windsor right now because she's about to do commentary for Maple Leaf Pro tonight and tomorrow. And this is what Veda is doing this weekend. So they are driving from basically Philadelphia to Ottawa to Detroit to do Maple Leaf Pro for 2 nights. Then Veda is driving down to North Carolina to call a DPW show.
All in one weekend?
All in one weekend.
Wow. The
dedication. Drive, the stamina, the dedication, the passion that Veda Scott shows every chance that they get is incredible. And honestly, it has kept me motivated. Watching them perform and strive has kept me, the last 3 years we were on the same schedule of tireless, just endless working, taking every opportunity we get to raise our value. And watching Veda continues to keep me motivated and going. So, I mean, to answer your question, yes, Veda's voice being on that package was incredible.
It was awesome for me as a fan, so I just had to ask how you felt yourself. But thank you so much for the time, Mike. Like I said, this is my 3rd time interviewing you. I hope to make this a tradition because it's always around this time, February of 2023. I think our last interview was March of 2024. Now we're talking in March of 2025. And boy, I've just been amazed by how much you have changed, or how much has changed in your career in that time. So I want to give you the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you, or everything that you're doing across, because you also have a Twitch stream yourself that I also watch as well. I'm that much of a fan of yours that I watch the Twitch streams as well, and you do a great job with being on screen and talking to the fans there as well. So let everybody know where they can follow you.
So I'm at Speedball Bailey on all the platforms. I have a Twitch, I have a YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. However, if you don't follow me yet and you would like to support me, here's the number one thing you can do. AEW posted my match, my debut against the Beast Mortos on their YouTube channel. So you can go and check that out for free. So go and watch that, and then watch AEW Dynamite on TBS or HBO Max every Wednesday. Watch me wrestle Kenny Omega, hopefully, at Dynasty
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate your time. And thank you to everyone for watching this interview on the Takedown on SI. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. That is Speedball Mike Bailey, the newest star of All Elite Wrestling. I'm signing off until next time.